This is my Nikon f/SLR camera with the Nikkor 50mm f1.8 pancake lens from 1980s. And these are two lenses that we are going to have a look at today. They look and feel very similar to my Nikkor lens. But these two lenses are brand new lenses that were only released very recently. Before we start, I want to tell you guys the two lens sample for this review were sent to me by Artralab. I do not have to return the samples after the review, but as usual, I also do not receive any money and Artralab has no control of what I'm going to say in this video. I just want to make it clear before we start the review. So today we are looking at two lenses from Artralab. The Artralab Nonikkor 24mm f1.7. It is a APS-C lens available for Nikon Z, Fuji X and Sony E mount. And we also have the 35mm f1.4, which is a full frame lens for Nikon Z, Sony E, Leica L and also Fuji X. The sample I received from Artralab are both for the Fuji X, but optically it is the same no matter which mount you get. The price of the 24mm lens is US $280 and the price of the 35mm f1.4 lens is US $379. So these lenses are reasonably cheap, but they are not the cheapest manual-focus lenses in the market. As you may have already noticed, the lens have an interesting name, Nonikkor. Nonikkor is a play on the word Nikkor, which is Nikon's brand name for their lenses. So these lenses are inspired by the old Nikon lenses from 1960s to 1980s. The non-Nikkor lenses look really similar to the old Nikkor lenses. The exterior design, the fonts on the lens, the colors, the handling, they are all very similar to the old Nikkor lenses. When I put my non-Nikkor lenses next to my real Nikkor lenses for my Nikon SLR cameras, they look almost the same. They just look gorgeous. They are completely mechanical lenses, so there's no electronic contacts, no autofocus. The construction of these lenses is completely metal, just like the old Nikkor lenses. The lenses feel very solid and feels very nice. The manual focus ring is very smooth, and it's very smooth the whole focus range from minimum focus distance to infinity. The focus ring feels pretty much the same as my Nikkor lenses and exactly what a good manual focus lens should feel like. Focus flow is around 145 degrees for both lenses. The front of the lens extends slightly when you change the focus distance to minimum focus distance. There is a mechanical aperture ring that has clicks. The clicks feels quite soft, so that is one thing that is a bit different to the old Nikkor lenses. These lenses comes in a golden box that mimic the style of the old Nikkor lens packaging. For people like me who grew up with Nikon golden boxes, seeing these non-Nikkor golden boxes definitely bring back some good memory and very special feeling. You may notice there is the word 1980s on the 35mm lens box. It's because the 35mm lens has two different versions. One is the 1980s version, which is the one that I got here, that looks like the Nikkor lenses from 1980s. The one that has the rubber or plastic ring at the front. And then they also have the 1960s version, which looks very similar to the oldest Nikkor lenses that has the metal ring at the front, like this one I use on my other Nikon F camera. So if you are buying the 35mm non-Nikon lens, you can choose the style that you like the most. This is actually the first time I heard of a company that creates two different exterior design for the exact same lens to satisfy different group of users. Or maybe it's just a way for them to sell the same lens twice to the same user. As both versions look really nice, it's really hard to decide which lens to buy, so maybe you just buy both of them. Now, these lenses are all quite compact, so even when I fit the lens on my pretty small Fuji X-T3, the size of the lens still look pretty small, and they look really nice on the X-T3. We'll have a look at the image sharpness now, and let's start with the 24mm lens. At f1.7, the center of the lens is already very sharp. Because of that, the center sharpness is pretty much the same from f1.7 all the way to f11. After that, diffraction starting to make the lens a bit softer. If we look at the corner, at f1.7, it is a bit soft. I have to stop down the lens to f5.6 to get good corner sharpness, and it becomes sharp at f8. Focus the photo at the center or focus at the corner make no difference to the corner sharpness, which suggests the lens has very minimum field curvature. And let's look at the 35mm lens. The center sharpness at f1.4 is a bit soft. I need to stop down the lens to around f4, then the center becomes reasonably sharp. By the way, it seems the lens may have a bit of focus shift issue. I shot these sharpness test photos a few times, and every single time, if I focus the photo after I stop down the lens, I can get better sharpness. This is especially noticeable from around f4 onwards. I can get excellent center sharpness at f5.6 if I focus after I stop down the lens. If we look at the corner is really soft at f1.4. Actually, even when I stop down the lens, the corner sharpness is still not really good. And this is when I focus at the center of the image. If I focus at the corner, then it would dramatically improve the corner sharpness. While I still won't say the corner sharpness is very good, but it's much better than when I focus at the center. However, if I focus at the corner, then the center becomes out of focus, so it indicates the lens has quite a bit of field curvature, so you need to be careful if you need good sharpness at both center and corner of the image. The minimum focus distance of the 24mm lens is 0.23 meter. For the 35mm lens, it is 0.35 meter. Artralab has not published the maximum magnification ratio figure on their website, but from my own measurement, it is around 0.14 times for the 24mm lens and around 0.13 times for the 35mm lens, so it's pretty good for both lenses. Sharpness at minimum focus distance is excellent with the 24mm lens even when shooting at the maximum aperture, but it is a bit soft with the 35mm lens. The bokeh balls from the 24mm lens quite often looks more like a half circle than a round circle ball shape. At the corner, the bokeh even sometimes looks a bit like a pointy triangle shape. The bokeh balls looks quite different to most of the modern lenses. The bokeh from the 35mm lens is a bit different to the 24mm lens. The bokeh balls are more rounded, but usually there's a bit of highlight at the outside rim of the bokeh balls. So you may either find it busy or you may really like it as it does looks a bit like bokeh from some of the vintage lenses. So in other words, people would call it character. The 24mm Artralab has some noticeable vignetting from wide open until f4, but even from f5.6 onwards, there's still a tiny bit of vignetting. The 35mm lens is much better in this area. While there is still some noticeable vignetting at f1.4, once we stop down to f2.8, the amount of vignetting is already at a very low level. So between these two lenses, the 24mm has the worst vignetting performance, and it is probably due to the compact pancake design. Both of these lenses shows a bit of chromatic aberration, and I can see some color fringing in some of my photos, but the amount of chromatic aberration is quite acceptable. It never really gets to the point that is very distracting. Between these two lenses, the 35mm lens seems to have a little bit more color fringing. If you look at these two Chromatic Aberration test photos which were shot with the same white balance setting and same lighting, you can see the 24mm lens renders the scene slightly cooler than the 35mm lens. Now let's have a look at my local test photos. Both lenses has a small amount of chromatic aberration. And let's have a look at these two brick wall test photos. We can see both lenses have a small amount of barrel distortion. But since the distortion amount is really quite small, I think it shouldn't really matter to most people. These Artralab lenses flare quite easily. This is not really unexpected, as a lot of lenses from Chinese manufacturer at around this price point would also have similar lens flare issues. When shooting at wide open, we can have pretty noticeable rainbow color lens flare. Contrast would also drop quite a bit at wide open. This is especially noticeable with the 24mm lens. If we stop down the lens a bit, then the lens flare becomes a lot better. So if you are shooting with these lenses and just got a little bit too much lens flare, try stop down the lens a bit and lens flare could improve dramatically. With the 24mm lens, we just need to stop down slightly to f2.8 and we're starting to see a bit of Sunstars. But if you want to get very sharp Sunstars, you do need to stop down the lens a bit more to around f8, then the Sunstars becomes much sharper. With the 35mm lens, you need to stop down the lens a bit more compared to the 24mm lens to get similar looking Sunstars. I don't know if many people would use these lenses for video, but when I did my usual focus briefing test and changed the focus distance between 1 meter and infinity, both lenses show a bit of focus briefing. As a reviewer, understanding what a product is designed for is a very important part of my job. From time to time, I see reviews that complain about things that a product was never really designed for. It's like complaining about a super sports car's storage space cannot fit luggage for a whole family, or complaining about a budget hotel doesn't have 24-hour room service. To me, it seems like these are pretty unrealistic expectations. So with these Artralab lenses, it's pretty clear to me that these lenses are really designed to bring back that old school feeling and old school shooting experience. From the packaging to the lens exterior design, everything look and feel pretty much the same as the old Nikon lenses. I myself have many old Nikon lenses, so when I unbox these lenses and mount them onto the camera, I feel like I'm shooting with my old Nikon lenses. A really large part of these Artralab Nonikkor lenses is to recreate or recapture those old beautiful Nikkor lenses that a lot of people, including myself, really enjoy. Well, I guess some of you may have the question, why not just buy the old Nikkor lenses? Some of those Nikkor lenses are not that expensive, probably cheaper than these non-Nikkor lenses. Well, I think that is a very valid question, because after all, these non-Nikkor lenses are just trying to replicate the old Nikkor lenses. But I guess there are two reasons why people may not want to do that. The first one is buying a second-hand lens, especially when you buy a lens that is more than 20-30 years old, can be a bit risky. Especially if you are a beginner, you may end up buying a lens that is actually not good at all. Even for myself, I consider myself knowing lenses a little bit better than the average person, but I have also bought a few old lenses that are actually not very good condition. So end up I have to either send it back, which still costs me time and money, or in some cases I just couldn't return it at all. So end up I completely wasted my money. And the second reason is, because those old Nikkor lenses were designed for the f mount, which has a very long French distance. So if you want to use it on a mirrorless camera, you have to use an adapter, and quite often the adapter is quite thick because of the difference in French distance. So what it means is, once you added the adapter, the lens now become effectively a lot bigger than what it originally was. While if you buy these non-Nikkor lenses, because these lenses are designed for mirrorless cameras, so you don't have to use any adapter, and the lens remains very compact once you mount it on the mirrorless cameras. And because you don't have to use the adapter, the camera setup just look a lot nicer and cleaner. I know some people do not really care about the look of the camera, so as long as the camera can take some nice photo, that's what you really care about. So that's fair enough. If that is you, I would honestly say don't look at these non-Nikkor lenses. Look at lenses from other brands. They are probably a lot more suitable for you. In terms of image quality, to be honest, I think these lenses are only okay. But these lenses are really designed to give you that vintage shooting experience, and that includes the look of the photo that you capture using these lenses, the bokeh, lens flare, and also the 35mm slightly soft image are very similar to what you would get if you shoot with most of the old lenses from 1960s to 1980s. So technically, the image quality is far from perfect, but the photo rendered by these lenses give you that special feeling that the modern super sharp perfect lenses can't give you. So what do you guys think about these two Artralab Nonikkor lenses? Would you be interested in picking up one for yourself? And do you have any vintage lens that you really like? Feel free to drop a comment below. I would like to hear your thoughts and share with you in the comments section below.